first thing I do is go to N-central and I go to, so under user guides or maybe downloads, because I think it's under the product versions. So something like this, where is release notes? Because in every set of release notes are this. So what happens is when you fired up N-central 2 years, 3 years, 5, 7 years ago, someone gave it a set of hardware requirements, revisit it. If you're at 3,500, you may want to look to do something like this, right? Scale it for 6,000. I wouldn't scale it for 9,000, only because what I have been told by support is that you can actually over provision memory, for example, and degrade memory performance. So one thing to keep in mind, so if you're at 35, I would go somewhere around 6, right? The other common thing within Central, and people aren't always aware, is I/O on the disk, right? You have a lot of monitoring services that are all firing anywhere from 5, probably 60 seconds, 5 minutes, and upwards of 15 and 30, right? And then you span that over 3,500 devices, and there's a lot of read and writes that are happening on that disk. One thing that I see time and time again is partners, when they first start out, they're small, they have 500 devices, they come to N-able, they get N-central, and then they grow, right, over 3 to 5 years. And what happens is that when you first fire it up N-central, someone's like, oh yeah, I'll virtualize N-central and I'll virtualize Report Manager, and they are actually on the same disk. What happens is N-central is a database, Report Manager is a database, and then you've got too much I/O because you've grown exponentially. Nobody's really kind of revisited it or looked at it. So one thing you definitely want to do is you want to move either N-central or Report Manager. I would probably move Report Manager, but you want to move Report Manager to either a separate host, or you want to segment the LUNs. It depends if you're running VMware or Hyper-V, but you want to essentially isolate the disks, right? You want to have dedicated disks for Report Manager, dedicated disks for N-central, and you do not want to run 2 databases at the same time. It's typically too much. Okay, and that's a common one I see quite often when people are getting into head scratching. I mean, if you've talked to support already, and not that I've seen you type or anything yet, but if you've already talked to support, the first thing they're going to tell you is, hey, do you match the system requirements? If you don't, maybe they're throwing their hands up. On a deeper dive, some stuff that I've done is just look to how things are configured, right? And oftentimes what happens is partners start out one way, and now you've grown and you're taking a bit of performance hit. Okay,